Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a video for you about this little guy right here. This is the WorkSharp Sharpener's Professional Precision Adjust Sharpening System. I am going to do this kind of like I did the Hapstone video, where I'm going to do an unboxing, because I have not opened this box. That's vaguely embarrassing to me, but I really haven't. But I'm going to go on ahead, I'll open this box up, we'll do an unboxing, see what all is in the kit, put everything together, and then we're going to try and do a little bit of sharpening on this little guy right here, which definitely needs some love, and potentially on this little guy right here to test the small knife table. Then at the very end, I'll give you my opinion. But because I've already reviewed one of the WorkSharp systems before, I figured maybe it's not worth redoing the whole thing, so we'll go on ahead and we'll take a look at this guy here together. But first off, before I go any further, I want to let you know that this guy was sent to me by WorkSharp a while back. In case you didn't notice, a lot of other channels got these like 8 months ago. I'm a little bit behind the times. I've been busy. Oh, it's terrible. But anyway, sorry about that, WorkSharp. But nonetheless, they reached out to me, said, "Hey, Nick, do you want to check one of these guys out?" I said, "Yeah, it might take me a little while." Wasn't kidding. But they know I'm going to talk about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. It might be a gem, it might be junk. They did still send it along. Nonetheless, we do have to assume this is the very best quality control kit ever, and I'm doing my absolute best not to let that affect the nature or the quality of my review. So, what do you say we go ahead and dive into it here? How the heck do you open this guy anyways? We have... Here we go. Whoa there. They're going full-on unboxing here. Well, yes, technically you do have to take it out of the box. So we got a box here, and then beneath it, whoa there. Oh, special edition built for Nick Shabazz. Oh, that's not... that's a whole thing right there. But okay, there we go. And let's go on ahead and see what's in the component box over here. So that's as opposed to the composite box. Kids, ask your parents. So anyways, let's go on ahead and take a look at what all is in here. Well, this is a beefy boy. I gotta say, like, they've got places for freaking lag bolts on this guy, so you can put it in the... Okay, and then it looks like you can adjust it to one or two angles, which... Okay, that's certainly an approach. We have, whoa there, we have, let's see here, a little branded knife-looking thing. We have maybe an instruction manual. That's kind of nice. WorkSharp is telling us that they are, in fact, WorkSharp. That's pretty reassuring. If I opened the brochure and it said we aren't WorkSharp, that would be problematic. Yeah. Okay, so let's see what all is inside the box here. What we have is a sliding bar style system. Is this held in place with these two studs and the mag... Oh, that's different. Okay, so we got a sliding bar style system, complete with the bar going all the way through. All right. This part here appears to be plastic. This must be your small item table. I'm not 100% sure how that's going to work, but we're going to find it out, aren't we now? We have ourselves a WorkSharp angle cube. Is it supposed to go on here? Yeah, maybe it is. Or maybe it goes on here. Oh, yeah, okay. So that way you can tell... Ah, fancy. Okay, okay. Neat. And it sticks on there. All right, with some magnetry. Not 100% sure what this little bit and bob is, but we're going to find out in a bit here. Okay, that wasn't even a joke. That was just the same word twice. Anyways, moving on. And then we have ourselves the actual clampy dude. That is, of course, the technical term. Okay, so you can separate it that way, and then the clampy dude increases the clamption here. So that way... am I going the wrong direction? Yes, I am. Turns out they should just write Tighten with an arrow that tells me what direction to tighten this. That would probably be easier for me. Yeah, okay, cool. So turns out when you turn it in the direction that says Tighten, it tightens it. So there's that. And then what's this little bit here? I should probably look at the damn instruction manual. All right. 9 Frankenstein small clamp support. I don't know why my clamp needs support, but that's very nice of it to offer it that support. I don't see anything about supporting. Oh, it looks like this little guy. Oh, that just lifted off. So the real question here is, what am I supposed to do to secure the base to the... Because they're showing me... Is there another screw in here someplace? As I throw my clamp support around. Okay, so this is where my stones live. There should be another screw. So here's the thing that's concerning me at the moment. There should be some kind of a bolt or screw that goes through here and prevents it from coming up off. But I ain't found that yet. And that's not ideal. Maybe it's still in the box here. Aha! It was hiding. Alright, so we got ourselves a pair of screws here. Looks like we go in from either side, all Frankenstein style. And this is what we got here. We have ourselves... Okay, this releases the... releases this guy. This goes in through here. And it looks like... Yeah, I'll press that in to get in. And then it clicks in place. Okay, so that gives me a fair amount of force there. And then to flip the knife, I'll just hit that down. Okay. Now we're cooking with gas here. Well, technically, we're cooking with the WorkSharp system. And then this guy... How the heck is this supposed to work? Oh, I think it goes... How are we securing the knife to this? Is that a magnet? We will find out. This is the small knife table, of course. Ah! Oh, beastie is magnetic. Okay. With the goal, then, you set the position of the knife using this guy. Okay. All right, that's a reasonable approach. We can try that a little bit later. But and then this is our clamp support here, which looked like it was supposed to go up top here, but maybe I'm not a brilliant man. Well, maybe. LOL. Where the heck are you supposed to go there, clamp support? My clamp feels unsupported. Please, offer me support. It's like gimme shelter, but it's gimme support for my clamp. Okay, yeah, I don't know what that's supposed to be yet. Maybe it'll make sense later on. But for the moment, looks like we have a fairly basic, and here, I'm going to rotate this up a little bit. So that way y'all can see. Can I rotate this up without taking the... Yeah, okay. Yeah, so now you can see everything we got going on here. We have our angle adjustment right here, which is able to allow me to... And that's a nice screw, actually. They've done a good job of threading that out there. And it doesn't look like... Yeah, there's a little tiny bit of slop, but it's nothing too bad. Here, let me... So we got that there. And then the rest of this looks like a fairly straightforward... Oh, and they have different angle guides for the clamp versus the table. And that feels a little bit unnecessary, given that they also give you an angle cube. But, you know, hey, why not, right? Okay, so I'm tightening those down. So this whole thing now feels pretty solid and substantial. That's one of the big differences relative to the original one. By the way, this whole shebang here is $299, which is a good chunk of change, right? And so, yeah, it does include a set of stones, and actually we can take a look at the stones real quick, because they're just in here. But as you can see here, we have 220, 320, 400, 600, 800... this may be 1,000, or just a ceramic-y sort of thing. Oh, they're saying a hone. Okay. Not quite sure what that's supposed to be. And then a strop. That's nice. Okay, that's a pretty good selection of stones there. And now let's go on ahead and plug in, he says. Oh, okay, this screws in to this. So that does do away with the slightly janky previous approach, which I will not argue with. And there's that. So this is very clearly meant to be a benchtop system, hence the place for bolts and whatnot. The goal here, I gather, is for you to be able to just like secure this to your workbench. Oh, that's kind of, this is going right out the front there. Okay, so it doesn't go through, it just stays there and you slide up and down on it. And I guess because this handle is high enough, I'm unlikely to... Okay. There is no... Well, okay, there are these little... There's this guy here, which I guess you can kind of scoot. There you go. You can scoot and turn into a backstop. So I'll probably want that someplace like here. Oh, no. So that'll go here. Depends on the place of the blade. Okay, and then there's one on this side too. Although it looks like this does have an actual screw at the end to hard stop it. So it doesn't come flying off it into your lap. Okay, so now let's go on ahead and get everything kind of set up here. One thing I am noticing this doesn't come with is a case. There is no hard case for this, or soft case for that matter. That's actually something that's a little bit frustrating, given that the unprofessional version absolutely does come with a can. Here, let me clean up the blade a little bit. This knife, for those who are curious, was actually sent to me by a viewer, which was very kind of them, and has become one of certainly my wife's most used knives, but also one of mine, in that it sits downstairs near where we open mail and packages. And so if there's a situation where we get a package and it's too early or perhaps too late for me to have a knife in my pocket, this will very often be the one that I grab to pop that open. But as a result, it has gotten relatively dull here. It gets a fair bit of use. As the joke goes, what do we use our knives for? Opening boxes containing knives. That's a thing. So what I'm going ahead and doing real quick is I am putting a Sharpie mark across the blade bevel, the edge bevel there. And so we're going to try and basically adjust the angle such that I'm removing only that. That will help me get a sense of where my angle needs to be. And I'll go on ahead and I'll put this little guy, which, by the way, has a super high contrast display. Like, I appreciate... Oh, it needs to slide up further, so that way it doesn't rotate around. Okay. But either way, it's saying to me... Yeah. So I'm right now at, like, the 25... plus, and it, well, don't trust it now, I've tilted it so you can see, but I'm just above 25, and it's telling me I'm at 27. Okay, that's kind of cool. Again, I don't know there, but once you rotate this guy out of the way, this guy falls off. See that? Yeah, that's a little bit less than ideal, but I guess you only really need to set the angle once. All right, so let's go on ahead and lock this guy in place. I'm going to make sure that the majority... And by the way, for those of you who are watching this to learn sharpening, do not. I am not a sharpening expert. There are people out there in the world who it is their livelihood, it is their career to sharpen knives. And they do incredible, incredible work. I'm thinking of folks like Mike Emler is sort of the sharpener closest to my life, so to speak. He lives not so far away. So anyways, so that is sort of my... There are plenty of great sharpeners out there, and I'm not claiming to be one of them. I can sharpen for utility, but that's really about it. So don't trust my sharpening statement. So what I've gone ahead and done here is I put in the 800 grit right there. You can see it says 800 on there. Does it say it on the bottom as well? It doesn't. That's a little concerning to me, actually, because I worry that in the long run... potentially, it will be hard to identify which stone is which if this wears away. But the reason I've gone with our highest grit stone here is that I don't want to remove too much material as I'm setting the bevel here. Okay, what I'm seeing is I am way too shallow right now. I'm sorry, way too, my angle is too high. So I'm going to go on ahead and rotate this down. Good, making progress here. My goal is to get to a place where I am scratching off the entire bevel, where I'm removing the Sharpie from the whole thing. We're getting pretty close here. I gotta say, this is luxurious, right? Twisting this little dial here to lower that, that feels pretty good. The screw is well done. That's pretty damn close, although it looks like actually the sharpening angle is different here than it is over here and out on the, where are we at on the tip? Yeah, the angle is very different in the middle than it is to either side. This is a truth, unfortunately, of factory-made knives. Very often the edge angle is not even. So where are we at here? This is too sharp. I'm sorry, this is too high for this part here, but it's the right for the... Okay, I'm going to lower this down a little bit more here. We'll be removing a little extra, but hopefully toward the tip and... Yeah. Okay. So what I'm seeing is I'm now getting the full bevel here. I've taken the Sharpie off for this whole chunk over here. And then this chunk and this chunk have a different angle. Let's see what we're looking like on the other side. So I'll press that down. Oh. Well, that's kind of a shame. It doesn't allow me to rotate the entirety. Like, it doesn't allow me to rotate in the other direction. Oh, tell me I'm not going to have to. No, I should be able to. If I put it... Oh, do I have this knife just mounted in such a way that I won't be able to use the rotation function? No, this should work. I sure do. Oh, that's really frustrating, actually. That's very frustrating. Right now, it seems that, and maybe I'm being an idiot here, but you are not able to rotate this in every way, right? Like, you're not able to do a complete revolution with this. And so as a result, I now have a knife that is in here where I have found an angle that is not exactly... Well, I mean, the angle works, but I can't rotate the knife because the knife handle will hit the ground here. And so, unfortunately, unlike the systems that rotate in either direction 360 degrees, this one you have to make sure, like I should have had the knife clamped so that it was in this position and then the handle was on the other side. So that would allow me to rotate around and swap. So am I going to have to reclamp the knife because of this? I guess. Okay. Am I being an idiot here? Because I tried swapping it to the other side, but no, I just... So, okay, that's our first lesson here, which, I'm going to be real with you here, is not a lesson I should have to learn. That this here is... It requires me to have the clamp in have the knife in a certain position relative to the clamp. Okay, do I have some kind of a mark on here that'll show me roughly where I was? I'll try to match up where I was roughly, but I'm going to have to set the angle again. And then I'll tighten here. Making sure that that's... Okay. Now I can press this and do this and this, but the other orientation of the knife, that didn't work. So when you clamp your knife, make sure that you are doing so in such a way that you can do the rotation. Oh, it also looks like when you hit this button, it also can come out. So you got to make sure that you are actually locked in place. Okay, so there's that. We're good and tightened now. Let's see where my angle is. And my angle is off, or the other possibility is that the bevels are just very different on the other side. Here's my Sharpie. I don't know if I'm going to go so far to call that a design flaw, but I will say that that's a problem that other systems don't have. I'm thinking of the Hapstone system I just reviewed, or the KME, which allow full 360-degree rotation. Like this, I'm going to certainly give it. It has really just the two positions it locks in at, which can actually be nice. Yeah, okay. I am too shallow now, which probably means I've changed the position in this direction of the knife in the clamp. So I want to raise this up a little bit, I think. Yeah, okay. We are still, of course, and by the way, I'm just angle finding here. This isn't real sharpening yet. Yeah, okay. So then let's see where we're at on the other side. One thing that is worth noting is that the top of this has a little catch, and I can't do this under the camera. Well, actually, I can if I rotate the whole thing. But this has a little catch where I should be able to put the stone, yeah, like that. So that way I can make all these adjustments with the stone out of play, which is nice. I just thought about that. Here we go. Let me put that there. So now I should be able to flip it to the other side, get my stone out of stone jail there, hit my phone with it, good call. And then we'll see where we're at on the other side. The other side has an entirely different angle. Now, I want to be clear about that. This is not the fault of WorkSharp Sharpening in any way. Wow, already ran a burr. That is a very different angle. Okay, what I'm going to go ahead and do then is lower this down a little bit. So that way, I'm not just taking off a bunch of, well, I probably want to match the lower angle here, do I? Wow, this is wildly asymmetrical. Am I being stupid here, or is this knife just way, way off? Yeah, the sharpening angles are just so different here. Well, either way, let's see where we're at with the other side. Put that back in stone jail there. I have to rotate it to put it into the stone jail rather than other way. Okay, take it out of stone jail. Do not hit the phone. Beautiful. Yeah, this is just a wildly different... Okay. So the issue I'm dealing with here is just the asymmetry of the sharpening angle here. I wonder if... Yeah, it looks like they just went harder on one side than the other. And so as a result, the angles are very different. All right, so what I'm going to go ahead and do now that I've done this, now that I got this in position, I'm going to take out my 800 stone, which I was just using because I didn't want to do much damage to the edge, so to speak, as I was finding the angle, remove too much material. And now we're going to go to this guy. This is the 220 grit stone, and we will take it from there. Oh, boy. This is a toothy boy. Making pretty short work of the D2, though, that's for sure. I just had a screw fall out of the handle. Really? Is that how life is now? Okay. Well, I luckily can put screws back in. Wow. Okay. How to disassemble and maintain the Ontario Rat number 2 without actually touching the screws. But anyways, this stone here is making very short work of the D2 and should put us on a matching angle pretty quickly. I'm not super concerned about the beauty of my sharpening passes right now because... Okay, that's the right... I can scoot this up a little bit. Oh, there. I'm using this little, you can't see it on camera, here you go, this little guy right here. I want to kind of scoot this up the tube some so that it is able to stop my stone. Yeah, we'll stop it about here. That way a full stroke, so to speak, of the stone is possible, which is good. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Right now I'm just hogging off material, setting the angle. So yeah, way behind the times on this. I'll be curious to see what some of the other reviewers out there have said about this guy once I have done mine. I have steadfastly avoided content on it, just so I have my own opinion. But as a result, I am much behind the times here, right? Y'all hear about that Hindenburg disaster? It's terrible. Ah, humanity. somebody knocked off an archduke in Europe. Sure hope that doesn't cause any political destabilization. Just to think someday man will walk on the moon. That's a joke, by the way. That's not conspiracy theory stuff. There were retro reflectors. We can tell. They've been there. You can tell. Get a laser and a telescope. Anyways, I digress. Dinosaurs sure are doing great. Hope there aren't any asteroids heading this way. I will say, this is quite effectively hogging off this D2. Okay, got a full burr up here and here. It's just this little area in the middle that I need to get some love to. So I'll go ahead and spend a little extra time there. Now, I should probably give you the disclaimer. Nope, still a little bit of unsharpened area there at the very edge. My goal is to get an even burr along the back side here. That way I can knock that burr off and go from the other side. But one thing that's worth noting is that, you know, this $299 system, in practice, especially for a knife like this in D2, which is a fine steel, but it's none too impressive in the grand scheme. And actually, I'll go ahead and I'll put this here to try and catch some of the swarf so it doesn't end up in my review mat forever. But I know that there are going to be people who, to be fair, probably won't watch to this point in the video, who say, "Oh my God, Nick, you don't need a fancy system like this. All you need is a stone. All you need is a single bench stone. Then you can sharpen anything up to your life's content." Right? Japanese sword masters don't use fancy guided sharpening systems, and that's true. That is undeniably accurate. The thing, though, is that not all of you are Japanese sword masters. And for those of you who aren't, and who don't have that skill, or don't have the time or energy or effort to learn freehand sharpening, which, by the way, I have and find quite rewarding and enjoyable, but a guided system like this can actually be useful. Okay. So we now have a full burr on this side. And we also have, oh, I don't know if you can see this, but I'm going to show it to you as best I can. We have magnetism at play. Can you see the iron filings standing up right here? That's kind of badass. Nature is metal. Well, technically metal is metal. Technically, that's tautological. Anyways, moving on. So let's go on ahead and switch to the other side here. Now that we have a burr along the entire backside, and let's see what we have to do over here. Not a whole heck of a lot is what we have to do over here. Have we... Yeah, we have a strong burr all throughout this side now. So it's just the asymmetry of the edges here. We've brought the other to apex here, and so I'll just go back to the other side. Now what I'm going to do, now that I know that I've gotten to both sides, I'm going to switch to a more consistent, steady stroke across here. The goal here is to sort of make the scratch pattern a little bit more consistent, uniform. There are folks out there who are very, very good at sharpening, who will really manipulate that scratch pattern to strong ends and make something really impressive with it. I am not that good, therefore I will not be doing that. My goal here is primarily aesthetic. Getting that scratch pattern consistent just makes the edge look better, ultimately. But this stone is actually quite effective at hogging off material. It should be as a 220 grit diamond stone, but still. Okay. We have a robust burr on the other side. Okay, great. Now I swap this over. And we sharpen. Pretty decent burr. Yeah, we have a complete burr on the other side. Okay, so what this is telling me now is that I have apexed, right? I have set an angle on this side, set an angle on this side. We are going to go ahead and I'll actually remove the Sharpie here because that'll make my life a little bit easier as I'm staring at things. Now that I no longer know or need to know what the angle is, I've gone ahead and picked one, so I'll go ahead and I'll remove that. It'll also have the fringe benefit of potentially removing a little bit of the swarf from the blade itself. Swarf, of course, being the removed metal here, rather than something that sounds very piratey. Well, I mean, it does still sound very piratey. Okay, then I'm going to switch up to the 320. I probably could have started here with the D2, but it just makes things go a little quicker, right? Okay, I think, yeah, this is flush. You want to make sure your stones are fitting flush. And yes, indeed, this is, by the way, a magnetic system where it pops loose on there. There we go, there we go. Beautiful. All right, so we have liftoff. Feels like this stone is wearing in some. There are some high points I feel like I'm taking off here. But I probably could have and or should have masked off the handle. That's a smart approach, which you can always take. And especially as you're getting started, masking off any part you're sort of worried about isn't a bad idea. If I would, I'm realizing what an idiot I am. Had I been brilliant, what I could have done is drawn the outline of the clamp the first time, then I wouldn't have had to reset my angle. But whatever, with a Sharpie on the blade. Because remember, Sharpie comes off metal very easily. All right, where is my... That's a robust burr. Let me give it a little bit more love here just to get the scratch pattern knocked down. I am going to try and take this as polished as I can. That's not necessarily a good idea, in that I don't need a high polished edge here, and high polished edges are a little less effective for cuts that require toothiness, right? Cutting into a tomato, or for instance rope, can respond better to a toothy edge. Go ahead and swap this over. But anyways, I am going to try and take this as high polish as I can, because I know that that's something that is an aesthetically desirable thing. And by the way, if I were really trying for aesthetics, I would reset the bevel on this side too. That way it's really consistent throughout. I'm going for sharpening here more than anything, and we'll see the aesthetic on the far side. But if I were really trying to be fancy, I would make sure that I was kind of evening out the bevel so that I have the full bevel here polished on both sides. But for the moment, I don't feel the need to do that to you all. So, just get my scratch pattern down here. Should have a robust bar. Very. Okay. D2 is a pleasure to sharpen relative to some of your super steels because, well, it ain't that super, right? Makes it real freaking easy to just throw on there. And get up to a ridiculous edge pretty quickly. Not quite fully burred yet. Okay. Nope, not quite. Pretty close. One thing that's worth noting is this little ceramic rod on the top here is designed for serrations. You can get that into some size serrations and, basically use it like this instead. So that's actually a nice little thing, and that does add a little bit of versatility to the tool. Okay, I think we're done at 300. Well, 320. We can go on ahead and move ourselves up now to 400. Really? 320 to 400? Okay, that's kind of a weird grit progression. That's a very small jump. Usually you would tend to jump higher. But I'm going to go on ahead and use their full set of stones here. Even though in practice you'd probably be fine just jumping up to 600. But who knows? Okay, that works. It does feel a little lower in grit. And we'll go to the other side here. Knock off the burr. One thing I am noticing is a little bit of downward flex on this guy, right, as I'm using this guy, and it is fully secured, but there is a little bit of downward flexion here, which is going to lead to a little tiny bit of rounding. It's not the end of the world, and it should be pretty consistent because that downward force, you don't want to be using, I'm not like pressing down here, but that downward force should be pretty consistent as you're using this. Where are we at here? Fully burred. Okay, go to the other side. Knock off the burr. Give it one more pass here. Knock off the burr. Yeah. All right, beautiful. Okay, so that was 400. Like I said, might could have skipped that, but who knows. We'll go ahead and move up to 6. And I'll go ahead and I'll wipe off the blade real quick. Goal here again is just to remove some of the swarf, remove some of the other diamonds. If you're really going for super high polish, then decontaminating things is desirable. Making sure that you're not mixing grits accidentally. Like I said, I'm not being that fancy here, but okay, this is definitely feeling higher grit. Scratch pattern is starting to look more like a 600, meaning the amount of basically reflectivity, or in this case actually there's a cloudiness that comes about. As opposed to a bunch of discrete cuts, you end up with sort of one uniform cloudiness at this kind of level, which will then turn into polish later. This stone holding mechanism is interesting, right? Using the magnets. Oh, that's where I'm getting the magnetized filings from. The freaking magnet in here. Neat. Okay. Probably should have been obvious to me all along, but here we are. It seems to work well. It's certainly effective. Okay, where are we at? Yeah, we got a burr on the other side. Okay, so I'll come back here and then very lightly try and knock that burr off. Good. Okay, excellent. Let's wipe, wipe, wipe. Wipe, wipe, wipe. And let's swap up to our next stone, which is going to be 800. It's our last of our diamond stones. I am a little disappointed that this doesn't come with any kind of case. That was one of the nice things they did with the last model. It was just a very good thing, right? I sort of assumed that I would open that box and there'd be a case inside, and giving me a cardboard box that everything fits into is, well, fine, but it only fits about half the stuff. I mean, to be fair, I could use the full box and then I'd get everything, but still, like $2.99, getting towards the place where you want to do something like that, mind you. Not other systems do, right? There are more expensive systems that don't come with one. You could certainly fashion a case for this out of, pistol case or something like that, I imagine, but it's just a different sort of situation. It'd be nice if that was there, and it feels like a little bit of a downgrade compared to their lower-end system that does include one. Okay, giving this a little extra love here. This holding by the top thin thing feels like it makes rotation both very easy but also very sort of inevitable, right? And given I probably could pinch down here, but then my fingers are in a little more risk. There's something nice to be said about having like the ball at the end. I say ow because when you try and hold it like this, you stab yourself in the fingers. But anyways, there is definitely some improvement to that kind of a system. Okay, where are we at here? This is a grit that's high enough that we really won't feel too much burr, but there is a little bit of burr there. Okay, so let's go on ahead. Pop that in. See, that's the thing, right? It's very easy as you're doing this. Well, I guess if you just disengage it and then if you press down to disengage and then immediately let back up, then it keeps you in the right orientation on this side. But that pull-out's a little weird. Let's go on ahead and do this. Now the next question that I have to ask myself, yeah, a little bit more, is what is the next stone, right? Because the next stone is technically labeled hone. And I think what they probably mean by that is that this is a stone that you can use to hone an edge that is already pretty much sharp, right? It's a little quick ceramic thing. It won't remove much material and should be able to hone things nicely. Yeah, so, okay. That is better if you just press the button once to disengage and then let go. All right. I'm going to do one more very light pass here to completely deburr. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to go on ahead and I'm going to try this hone stone here. They have it in the box as the next progression, and it looks like, in fact, it feels like the grit is pretty, it's a high grit. So we're going to see, and actually before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and clean off my edge again. Just de-swarf. Let's see where this lands us. I'm assuming that this will give us a slightly higher polish. Is it? It's kind of hard to tell right now, I'm going to be honest with you. Okay. Honestly, it feels about like where we were in terms of grit. Doesn't seem like it's winning us a whole heck of a lot, but what I do want to do, though, and what I will use this for, is to fully remove any remaining burr, errant or otherwise. It's a joke about as old as my product I'm reviewing here. There we go. Beautiful. All right. Let me give it one more pass on the other side here. So, now my last step here is going to be to use the strop. One important thing, danger, 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 is that if you use the strop in both directions, you're going to have a bad time. If you try and go like this, you will cut this leather up. This is what appears to be a leather with just green polishing stropping compound on there. So I need to make sure that I lift off the blade. I'm only going one direction as I use this strop. It is kind of nice that they give you a stropping attachment here. Is it crucial? No, probably not. I think using a strop itself is a valuable skill, and perhaps even if you are a person who's not interested in learning to hand sharpen, you should be a person who's interested in learning how to hand strop. Because stropping a blade is a really good way to maintain your edge, right? You got something that is not as sharp as it once was, but is certainly not dull. Stropping is usually enough to get it back to as sharp or sharper. And you don't need a guided angle system for this, right? Normally what I would use is a little guy like this that I have loaded up with some stropping compound, right? You know, you can learn to... Oh, almost cut up my strop there. If you do that, by the way, it's not the end of the world. Just keep using it as normal. But it's worth being mindful. All right, let's flip this over here. But it's good that they include the strop here. It is a good finishing step for the knife, but it is not a thing that you need to do on a guided system by any stretch. Getting the feel for stropping is in some ways, I would say, easier than getting the feel for sharpening. So, yeah. All right. This is really thickly coated in strop material, compound that is, which, by the way, you can always recoat later on. There's no harm in the extra thickness there. Some people like a little extra thickness. So mix a lot among them. Anyways, kids, ask your parents. Actually, don't. Do not. Moving on. So, so it is very thick on there. But yeah. And you can see I actually screwed up a little bit. I dug the tip into the edge there, which is, again, not ideal. And why you shouldn't be learning how to sharpen from me. You should learn to sharpen from somebody who sharpens. That would be smart. But at the very least, you see what a jackass using this system turns out to do. Okay, so then we flip this back over one more time with feeling. And we'll see where this lands. No burr on this side. Feels like there's maybe a little something going on the other side here. I'm going to give this side just a little bit more love. Right now the edge isn't looking too impressive, but it is very likely just dirty from the strop. The real question becomes, is this sharp? The answer to that becomes much easier when I have copy paper. He says, busting out his printer under his work desk and stealing paper. Let's see if the printer wakes up. Okay, yeah, that's sharp. That's pretty sharp. Here we go. Yeah, that'll do. That is sharp. So what we can go on ahead and do now is, I think, loosen this guy up. Loosen, loosen, loosen. And I'll clean this guy up. Just throw a bit more rubbing alcohol on this. We'll see what our edge looks like. Okay. And yeah, that's nice. That's very sharp. Okay. So then we are all set there. I'm going to do a little tiny bit of work using the small knife table here, just to see how that feels. So I pop that on there. And it is nice, by the way, seeing that the contact surface down there is metal as well as metal here. Should lead to a little bit more lifetime for it. There doesn't appear to be a way to... Is that tighten it on there? Oh, no, that's adjusting this. So you move the table back and forth with this, and then you move this magnet back and forth. Okay, I see what they're doing with this. And let me grab my little ladybug here. Well, technically the wife's little ladybug. This is first knife I ever got her, actually. There's a whole superstition that you should never get somebody a knife. It's a bad idea. They should always pay. It's never a gift. So I think I stole 5 cents from her. Anyways, that I suppose is a confession, but she was fine with it. All right. I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. Let's go on ahead and there's a lot of slop in that. should try and maybe push this a little bit forward, and that could allow me to... Yeah, okay, that supports the back of the blade here. And then this guy I can scoot up a little further. And how it's being held on here is just magnetic. So I'll go ahead and I'll try, let's just go to 400 here. This is VG10. This could be sharpened with a freaking top of a car window. Yeah, okay. It's just basically being... I need to set my angle a little lower, I think. No, actually higher. This definitely moves around a lot. It is a table more than it is... Yeah, this would need to be way higher. It is a table much more than it is a clamp. There we go. Are we burring? Yeah, we're burring. It is very, very much a table. And so the thing that is holding this in place is my hand right now. And the fact that there happens to also be a magnet and some other stuff there is sort of incidental. Okay. Am I even touching the edge here? I appear to be. Okay. Yeah, and then I'll swap to the other side. This I'm just putting a very working edge on. And where are we at? That's going to need a little more love. All right, but I'll do that off camera and potentially with a different system. So, what are my opinions? How do I feel about this final conclusion? What is my review of the WorkSharp? Oh, that's from putting this guy on with diamond dust present from the other guy. What are my opinions here? Well, I got a couple of opinions. I got a number of them, actually. At some level, I do appreciate the fact that they're making a more robust feeling version. Compared to the original OG WorkSharpy dude, this feels a lot more durable. It feels a lot more real, right? It's metal here, metal here, metal here. There is plenty of plastic about, but it is metal in a lot of places that count, which is very nice. And so I do appreciate that. It feels like a very much an upgrade. I will also say that this part here, being screw-in rather than being held in with magnets, is also feeling like an upgrade. That is nicer and feels a little bit nicer to use and in the hand. I will say that the height adjustment here is beautiful. This is super smooth, right? And feels in many ways smoother than most systems, where a lot of systems, I'm thinking like, for instance, the KME or the Hapstone, and really the latest Hapstone systems are kind of the main competition in my mind for something like this, right? That or good old-fashioned sharpening stones, but if you're willing to put in that, then unquestionably you get more value. But anyways, this is super smooth and makes it really easy to be super granular, to make either very large adjustments or very small ones, right? I'm a fan of this. This is very nice. And it feels nicer than the other systems which require you to kind of raise or lower something by hand, right? Or to, move something up or down with force of finger. This lead screw is just beautifully done. I think they've done a nice job there. The overall stiffness of the system is pretty okay. I gotta say, there is a fair amount of... But the thing is, actually, now that I'm thinking about it and seeing it, when I press down here, there is a fair amount of pull down, but it also pulls this part down, right? So that actually might not be as big of a problem. If the entire system, when I press the knife down, is kind of flexing, the angle between the blade and the clamp stays about the same, which is actually okay, right? Maybe still not ideal, right? And I might be able to get in there with an Allen key and tighten things down further. And it may be a little bit better when I am fully lagged to a work desk or something like that. But still, that's actually maybe not as much of a problem as I felt initially, seeing that the entire thing Can't see that from this perspective, but when I'm looking at it from the side, if the entire thing is moving, yeah, such is life. So, yeah, there's that. I do like very much the parking lot for the stone up at the top here. That's a beautiful thing. And that was something I wish that more of these systems paid attention to. So that's good. I like the desk mountability of it, right? They're calling this a professional system. And that may be their argument for both the desk mounting and for the lack of carrying cases. Like, the goal here is that this is a thing that you screw into your workbench, so to speak, and then whenever you need it, you just go over and use it. This is assuming that I have a much bigger workbench than I do, right? I wish I could sacrifice this much workbench space just to have this out always, right? That would be a lovely thing. But nonetheless, it's nice that they've given us the option there. There's no harm in putting the bolt hole region there for it. But I do like that they're giving you that option. That is nice. And I'll say that the stones worked well. Right? I don't have any sense of how these are going to hold up in the longer term, but they do sell replacements for them, and that's the thing that you can take a look at later on. The grit progression's a little bit weird, right? As I mentioned, going from, 200 to 220, 320, 400, then to 600. Like, the 400 feels a little bit of an odd stone out there. But again, certainly not the end of the world, and certainly works fine. In terms of the edge created, it's a good edge, right? That's nice and sharp. And I could have spent more time, right? And I could have evened it out. Don't take any of that. That's the way that this guy was originally sharpened. Yeah, you can see it's way asymmetrical. But again, that's because I didn't take the effort to hog off a bunch more metal on both sides, right? I just wanted to put a good edge on it, but the edge is very nice. It's very sharp now, even by my standards. Oh yeah, that's nice. So it can put a very sharp edge on a knife. I want to be 100% clear about that. And the edge on it here is, and given I could have spent more time stropping, but the edge is of reasonable polish. Right? It is not, oh my God, polished, and again, I could have spent more time. I could have done things differently. I could have spent more time on each grit, got everything really smoothed out, and probably could have ended up a little bit better. But I will certainly say that there are systems that are much more capable of putting on a mirror edge, and give you more stones on the higher end to be able to do so. Right? That is something, if you are really looking for cosmetic mirror edges, this may not be the right system for you. I would send you there towards the KME, which has that beautiful system of lapping films that absolutely work, or towards the Hapstone system, which will, again, you have a much higher grit progression there. So this is definitely not the system I would recommend if you're looking for something for super high-end polished edges, way above and beyond. Other things that are a little bit annoying, I dislike the fact that you cannot swap. You can't go either direction here. You can't keep going this direction, which means that as you mount your knife, you need to make for sure that your handle is over here, if you've got it in this way. That way I can rotate the whole thing and go back and forth and back and forth. There is a way that you can mount this incorrectly that is not well put, right? They should probably have, for instance, on this side, a little arrow that says handle that way. Right? Or on this side, one that says handle that way. That would be a little bit nicer. I think that would be an improvement here overall and would allow people to avoid some reclamping and that unpleasant surprise. That said, now that I know it, it's not going to be a problem in the future because I'll double check for it. Not the end of the world, but it is something that they could definitely improve in the future there. The clamping situation is nice. There is no need for external tools. That is an advantage this has over the Hapstone. Right, the Hapstone requires you to have a separate screwdriver, Allen key driver to tighten things down there. So there is that. But the clamp is also there's less diversity of clamption, if you will. You are not able to change the width of the clamp, such that, for a knife like this is a perfectly reasonable clamp size. But if I wanted to, I don't know, grab a knife like this, this is maybe a little bit wide for that clamp. Actually, let's see. This is a thick boy, right? I want to see if this will actually even grab onto this. We're going to make sure this is as loose as it goes. Will it grab the Deckard knives Soule? Or the Soule knives Deckard? Not particularly, no. Yeah, so there is definitely a little bit of, well, if you are collecting knives along this line, you have a definitive thickness that you can go with. But more importantly, this is only going to be able to grab any knife in one place, as opposed to some of the other systems like the Hapstone, which allow you to spread the clamps out and give a little bit more lateral support there. Not the end of the world, but if you're doing a lot of kitchen knives, this might not be the right choice because of that, right? A lot more people have kitchen knives than have, well, this. But, you know, those kinds of things are good arguments, again, for hand sharpening anyways, right? These guided systems, very seldom. I'm trying to think, maybe the Hapstone would fit this. I don't think the KME would do a great job of it. Even I'm a little questionable about the head. So this is maybe an unfair comparison, right? This is extraordinarily thick. That is an art piece as much as it is a knife. So, anyways, you don't get, though, the wide clamping, which is maybe a downside relative to some of the other comparable systems. The small knife table, I gotta be honest, not super duper impressed. Right, I mean, maybe this particular knife, its pattern just didn't work well. Here, let me grab another small knife. Let's go on ahead and use this little guy right here. This is about as small a knife as you get. And I'm curious whether this is going to work. This is your Nick Shabazz Victorinox. Okay. Come on, out the way there, keychain. Yeah, that ain't doing. Well, maybe if I reduce the magnet. Yeah, I'm not super impressed by this, right? This has the same downsides as, for instance, the Edge Pro, where you're just basically holding the knife in position and then, you know, going to the other side. This is a pain in the neck, but yeah, maybe it could work, but honestly, at this point, I'm just going to use the stones by hand and go back and forth and just do, you know, one of these kind of things, right? Not towards me. But anyways, so I'm not super impressed by this small knife table here. Perhaps there are ways that I could do better with it, right? But on the whole, yeah, that's not something I'm in love with there. And I think if you're predominantly doing small knives, there might be other systems. The KME has a dedicated small knife adapter, right? And of course, you can use a small knife in this bigger guy here, but you do run the risk of when you clamp it in there, in order to get the right angle, you would end up having to hit this, right? You would be hitting this part with the stone. So, you know, these guys are just hard to do, though, for any guided system. There's another argument for hand sharpening on a bench stone or something like that. And then, what else? Yeah, like I said, overall, I guess those are my thoughts. This is an interesting option, right? It is something a little bit different, which can be nice. And it is something that feels, I don't know. In some ways, I'm thinking about this relative to like the KME, relative to the Hapstone. This is not so far off in terms of price, right? This whole kit is $299, which at some level includes all the stones, includes a nice system. If you're a person where your only goal is to get knives very sharp, right? For instance, you are maybe a woodworker, and by the way, I'm sure you could use this with some other kinds of work, like tools to sharpen, right? But if your only goal is to get knives very sharp, you don't need a super pretty edge, and the kinds of knife that you're doing over and over again is something like this, you know what? This would work great. And this is something I could see being a nice system that you could buy at a, you know, small sporting goods store. Right, you run a shop that sells, you know, bows and arrows and knives or something like that, and you want to have something behind the counter that even the dumbest person you've hired can use, and can put a reasonably good edge on something. You know what? This system could work very well, and those stones should work, and you just mount it to the countertop. It's, you know what? That'll work great, right? And so at that level, I think it works. It's fine. I will say that if you're willing to pay a little bit more money and jump up to like the Hapstone, which given at the kind of price point that's competitive with this will have lesser quality stones than the diamond. Oh, that was my other complaint. Is like, why are you writing the grit of the stone on the part you don't see? right? That's a little weird. Put it on the back or the side or something like that. I worry that's going to get swarfed up and you'll lose track of what's what. But anyways, I can see this working very well in that domain. But if you're an enthusiast, for instance, you're a knife person, you really want to be putting high quality, super mirrored edges on knives. Let me give you an example of one of those. Where have I put a stupid edge on something? Does this have a stupid edge? It's not even that stupid, all things considered. What have I sharpened recently that has a ridiculous edge on it? There's this. No, okay. Well, either way, if you are looking, maybe the Norseman, I put a dumb edge on? Nah. Anyways, I'm sure I could find something, but I'm not going to sit there and make y'all wait for it. If you want to put a ridiculously nice edge on something, then this might not be the right choice. You could certainly have, buy more strops and put on higher end stropping compounds and continue the polish up, but I would honestly at that stage probably push you towards the Hapstone or the KME systems. The KME particularly if you're really looking to refine that edge with those, with the extra films and such. You will be paying dearly for that, right? The KME is a great system, but with all of the stones, with all of the you're looking at $400 or $500, and the Hapstone, same thing, if you want to go for the really high-end stones. But if you're buying really high-end knives, that might be something that's worth considering here. So in a lot of ways, this feels like kind of an in-betweener product. If you are a person who just wants to sharpen a knife on occasion, then I would honestly probably recommend the non-professional version of one of these guys. It's a pretty good bargain-focused option that will put a nice edge on a knife without a whole lot of trouble. Right? And it also has the advantage of the carrying case, those kinds of other things. And sure, it's got some things that I don't like as much as on this guy, but it also has some things that I do like. The portability issue is a little bit nicer there. The case is a little bit nicer, and the price is certainly a little bit nicer. If you want to jump up a little bit and you're going to be doing a lot of sharpening, this might be an approach, right? If you're not willing to spend the extra money to go KME or to go Hapstone, then this might be a place you end up doing, right? This might have some interesting stuff for you. But at the same time, you are very, very quickly going to end up in a place where you probably should have just gone even higher still. So it's in that intermediate category. Is it a fine product? Yeah. Are there some places they could improve it? Yeah, absolutely there too. And is it something I'm going to use a lot for my sharpening in the future? Being completely honest with you, probably not, no. I will... it's nice they put my name on it and everything, but I don't see myself in a place where I would pick this guy up over taking out the KME or taking out the Hapstone, right? Both of those are systems that have solutions to a couple of the things that this has as problems, although, damn, I'm going to miss this lead screw. That's nice. And so, because I was willing to pay a little bit more money for those, I'm, just as happy to do so and to use those guys. But is this a system I could use for the rest of my days and keep knives sharp? Yeah, absolutely. And is a bench stone a system too? Yeah, is that too. So anyways, you got lots of options here. I'm not exactly sure who I'd send to this guy, but if you're in that place where you really want a nice sharpening system that puts good working edges on something, and you don't want to spend all that much money, but you're willing to spend some, then you know what? There's a fine little choice here. But if you're really looking higher end, I would look higher end. I think there are some improvements to be made. So anyways, hope this has been interesting to you, that you have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of the day, and that you're happy to finally find out 8 months later how this guy was. Probably closer to 9 or 10 by the time this airs. Anyways, hope this has been interesting. Have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Stay sharp out there. Bye now.